probably be getting a lot of questions. Phone would still be buzzing. And then I was going to say something else and I forgot. Sorry.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
In terms of features, I don't know whether it would be worth, like where you've got the time, 6 to 11, if there was kind of a slider or something, where you would slide it back to say 7 o'clock.
So you've got a kind of like spectrum between the times where you're more sitting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. That's good insight. Yeah. To give that more kind of clarity. No, that's really interesting. And I kind of wanted to quickly check if you don't mind me talking about this, but on your kind of conversation about your health, and then the idea of kind of communicating, waiting for those texts. Is that a benefit thing just to press one button during like kind of obviously your health to quickly press that and not need to worry about being on technology or anything like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Because that was just an interesting point you brought up, and just wondered if that was something that was kind of attractive to you in a sense. Where or who with do you think a feature such as Haze would not be possible to use? So that's with who, like a person, or in what situation?
Well, I doubt I'd use it for my work.
Okay.
Because in terms of that, I'd need to kind of, obviously, if I was using it to say like I wouldn't be in that day, I'd still need to give a reason, a valid reason. I mean, it's kind of company policy that we'd have to phone. So I wouldn't use it for my work. I'd use it for friends, family. I mean, I doubt I would use it for anything official, like a doctor's appointment or stuff like that, unless it was kind of, they'd adopted it.
Okay.
It wouldn't obviously be through my choice. Or not through my choice, but I wouldn't say, like, use that first, and they're just kind of like, why are you using this? But if it was like a universal thing where it was kind of everyone using it, then I could see myself using it for a lot of things.
That's really interesting. It's a really good insight in terms of the universal adoption element. I never thought of that difference there. That's an interesting point in terms of where you feel you could use it yourself, which was more on the personal element. But then when it was like more, I guess. So on your work policy, interestingly, obviously you phone up, you have to give that phoning up thing to say you're not going to be in or something.
Yeah.
Is that always possible for you during kind of bad health or anything like that?
Nah, I mean, usually what I would do is like when I wake up and I'm feeling like, obviously I'll like not be able to go into work. It is earlier than folk are either in office or my managers specifically are in office. So there's no point in me phoning at that time. And I'm like, well, I've gone back to my bed. Like, there's no point in me just sitting about waiting for them to get in. So I would send an email. So I wouldn't necessarily phone. But like I say, with my work, I don't think this would work. Well, like, if they adopted it and it was like, yeah, ease it out if you're not going to be in. But I think in terms of my work, they'd still need a reason. So, at least a text box or something for me to say why I've hazed it.
Right. So.
Because I could use it if I just wanted a day off. Not on the sick, but I just wanted to use my holidays. I could use it for that as well, but I would need a reason. Like, I'd need to ask, like, obviously, can you approve a day's leave for me? I mean, in terms of saying, I don't know, in the future, I want 2 weeks off. That could probably be used for that. But like I say, it would need a textbook.
That's interesting. So in that analogy, in that concept, it would need a text box, but when communicating with friends and all that kind of stuff, you feel that you wouldn't need a text box. So
Aye.
That's really interesting. How do you feel about an ability to see other people's uncertainties about specific elements of an event? So kind of like in this scenario here, like you could see other people's changes.
Yeah. I mean, I think it would be, like for myself, it would be beneficial because I would kind of take it. Like, I know a lot of times, like if you're messaging someone and they've maybe said, "Oh, I don't know if I'll make it or not," but then you don't get any messages after that, then you don't know whether they're going to turn up or not, and you're still kind of hanging on to like, well, maybe they'll text, I don't know, maybe an hour before or half an hour before saying, "Oh, I can make it," kind of thing. Whereas with this, as soon as I see that going grey, like getting hazed out, then I think I would be less worried about making plans. Sorry.
That's okay.
Kirsten's just come home. With this, I would be less worried about going ahead with plans.
Mm-hmm.
If some, like, without making sure that, like, obviously texting someone to say, like, you still coming or whatever, if they've greyed it out, then I would kind of be like, right, I don't need to get in touch with them. I can continue to do whatever the plan was, and they'll be in touch, or they'll unhaze it whenever they feel like it.
That's interesting. Just gives you that next element.
Yeah.
Cool.
And because that's kind of the purpose of this tool. So, yeah, I feel like it's more acceptable just to kind of go ahead with whatever we had planned.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So more acceptable in what sense?
Well, I don't know, I just feel like in terms of this, because it's been kind of, the tool's been built for you to either haze it or unhaze it, and it's kind of black and white, like that's what this is used for, whereas with messages, it's kind of like, if I've just say I've made plans, and then on that day, it was like sending out a text to say, "Is this still on?" and you don't hear anything, and then you're kind of coming up to the time when you'd made the plans, and you're still like unsure of what's going on, whether you should go, who's going to be there. Whereas with this, it's got, like, obviously the example on the screen, it's got 3 people still intend to attend.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas one has greyed out. Obviously with the text you can't really tell that. So I wouldn't really be wanting to leave the house and go somewhere if I don't know if anyone's going to be there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna...
2 seconds.
No worries, mate. For insight into it. So I'm recording again, and based on this, could you tell me a time that you'd maybe have used a feature like this to communicate that you're uncertain about, like you'd block out before a specific event in the past?
I would use something like that in terms of, like, day to day I can't really think of an example. Other, like, obviously you've got the friend's wedding, so I'm just thinking when, and that, yeah, it would work like that, in case you're, like, hungover or whatever. But the kind of example I was thinking of is, like, I'd use this, more likely to use it afterwards, to kind of haze out the days afterwards of, like, hospital appointments or doctor appointments.
Ah, okay.
So it would be like,